Hi, I'm at the Basilica of St. Patrick's Old Cathedral. Today I'm here to talk about my visit to St. Patrick's Old Cathedral in New York City. It was one of the most meaningful and quietly powerful churches I've ever visited, and I wanted to talk about its history and why it inspires me personally, and how being here has helped me understand and experience the connection between the human and the divine, and how it's helped me my belief in God. So first, a little history about it. This place has a story that you can feel when you walk through the doors. St. Patrick's Old Cathedral was completed in 1815, which is already crazy to think about. This was the first cathedral in the Archdiocese of New York, the spiritual center for Catholics who were trying to build a new life in America. What makes its history even more meaningful is who worshipped here. In the 1800s, waves of immigrants, especially Irish Catholics, came to New York seeking for hope. But they didn't always find welcome. There were riots, discrimination, poverty, and in many ways the church became a safe place, almost like a shield. The brick walls around the cathedral were literally built for protection from anti-Catholic attacks. So when you stand here, you're not just standing in a pretty church, you're standing in a place where faith survived against fear and hatred, and that alone inspires me and helps my belief in God. Now, when I talk about how this space inspires me, it's not just because it's historic, it's because of what it feels like. When you walk inside, the noise of the city drops away. Suddenly it's quiet, almost like time slows down. The stained glass windows are so beautiful and have such a beautiful touch, and there's colored light that feels warm and peaceful. The high ceilings naturally pull your eyes towards, and the old wooden windows remind you how many people have sat here before. People who prayed, cried, hoped, and asked God for help in the same way we do now. For me, one of the most powerful things about this church is how it creates a moment where you feel the world above and the world around you at the same time. It's like standing at a border, the border between human and divine. You feel the reality of life with all of its struggles and noise, but you also feel something greater, something calmer, something loving, God's presence. The beauty of the building doesn't just decorate faith, it actually helps you feel it. There's this moment I had when I walked into one of the side chapels. It was small, dark, and quiet with just a single candle glowing by a statue, and I just stood there for a few seconds taking it in. It made me think about how faith doesn't always come from loud miracles or big moments. Sometimes it comes from stillness. Sometimes it comes from silence. Sometimes it comes from knowing thousands of people have stood exactly where you are, whispering prayers and trusting God. This place made me understand that and made me feel it. Another part of St. Patrick's Old Cathedral that really moved me was the catacombs underneath the church. They're not like the dramatic European catacombs, but they're incredibly meaningful because they hold the resting places of important Catholic leaders and families from the early days of New York. Walking down there feels like going deeper into the roots of the church, not just the building, but the community of believers. You realize faith isn't just about what's happening today, it's about generations and generations of people who believed before us, who built these spaces with their hands, who trusted God through the hardships we'll never fully understand. And that made me feel connected to history and connected to everyone who came before and connected God in a way that felt steady and grounded. Art and architecture doesn't usually affect me the way they affect some people, but here it was different. The church didn't feel like a museum, it felt alive. Every detail, the walls, the altars, the windows felt like they were trying to tell a story. Not just the story of the church, but the story of what it means to have faith, what it means to hope, what it means to trust in God even when life is chaotic. Being here honestly did help my belief in God. I didn't expect it to, but it did. It reminded me that faith isn't a theory or an idea. It's something people have lived out for centuries. It made me realize that God doesn't only show up in miracles or big signs. Sometimes God shows up in places like this, quiet, steady, beautiful places that help us breathe and remember that we're not alone. Standing in this cathedral, I felt a sense of peace I didn't even know I needed, and I think that peace can only come from God. So when I think about the human and divine coming together, this place is the perfect example. Humans built the walls, carved the wood, designed the windows, but the feeling you get inside, the stillness, the peace, that's not something people can manufacture. That's something holy. That's God. And maybe that's why this cathedral has lasted so long. Maybe that's why people still come here to pray, to reflect, to reconnect. Because places like this remind us that God meets us where we are, whether we're struggling, searching, or just trying to make sense of life. To me, St. Patrick's Old Cathedral is a reminder that faith is bigger than us. It's bigger than one moment, one generation, or one challenge. It's something living, something that has survived centuries, and something that continues to speak to people today. So being here didn't just teach me history, It helped me understand God in a new way, and that's why this cathedral will always be a special place to me, and why I love visiting St. Patrick's Old Cathedral in New York City.